Welcome to the PreSnap Podcast on the LineStar YouTube channel alongside my co-host, Tyler Wiemann. I'm Shannon Sommerville, and Tyler, it is a best ball summer. We've got training camp just a couple of weeks away and a lot of things to consider. In today's video, breaking down the potential targets for late rounds in your next best ball draft. We've seen over the years some guys come out of the woodworks and put up fantasy points to help people win best ball. And that's kind of what we're trying to do here. Take some shots at some of these players and who could provide some value those late rounds in your next best ball draft. You know, just some late round flyers, just kind of throwing the dart at the board. Some examples, Tyler, over the year of guys that have provided value. Last year, Jonnu Smith finished TE4, Tucker Kraft, TE9, Juwan Jennings, wide receiver 25. But the year before that, we saw a couple really great ones, including Puka Nacua, who came out of nowhere. Wide receiver 4 was his finish. CJ Stroud, of course, finished quarterback 11. His ADP was 209. Kyron Williams was a big star that year back in 2023. ADP 216, but finished RB4. So they're out there for us to grab.
I think that year, 2023, Sam Laporta also finished as tight end 1. And
as a rookie, too. A rookie He actually, I think was he a late pick in that one? Because I felt like he was kind of, people were kind of on to him.
I don't think he was like your last pick of the draft late, but he was definitely in the double-digit rounds.
All right. So there is some value to be had, essentially, late in drafts. So the key is just kind of finding those guys on the board. What criteria are you looking for as we kind of try to figure out who those potential candidates are that could provide you some value in your best ball draft?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing there is you're not going to find, someone with like juice, great athletic ability, and easy volume. It's kind of going to be one or the other, and you got to really just pick your spots with those and go for, depending on what that team needs, either for your high upside or just the consistent points.
All right, so let's get into it. But before we do us a huge favor, like this video, subscribe to our LineStar YouTube channel. We've got tons of content coming out, including our best ball series, but also during the NFL season, we'll have weekly picks where we give our favorite player prop bets. So make sure you join us on the LineStar community by just subscribing, and then also comment below. Let us know how your best ball drafts are going, who your late round targets have been, and who you think could have an unbelievable season. Maybe be this year's Jonnu Smith or the 2023 Kyron Williams, who you think that's going to be. But we're going to give our best efforts to try to like pinpoint those guys here. So Tyler and I have each compiled a couple guys that we're looking at. So let's, Tyler, kick us off here. Who do you think could potentially provide some value late in those best ball drafts?
All right, I'm going to go with the Miami Dolphins and Jaylen Wright. His ADP is right around 162-ish right now. LineStar, we have him ranked at 180, but I think that there's room for more with him. And the reason I say that is Miami has used 2 backs most seasons outside of last year. They just went to Devon Achane, but last year, Wright was a rookie. He had to kind of fill into the role down the stretch. He was used a little bit more, but this is a guy that ran a 4.38 40. He's 5'11". He's 210 pounds. He's bigger than Achane, who is like 5'9", 190-ish. So, I think there's a couple things here. I think one, they may want to spell Achane a little bit more, not give him quite as much, or even throw him into the slot a little bit more and have Wright back there as the running back spot. I think there's just a bigger workload for him that he could have standalone value. But if Achane goes down, he has break fantasy upside. So
yeah, definitely a nice handcuff there for Achane. But any concern there with Alexander Madison and Ollie Gordon now also in the fold there in Miami?
Nah. Madison, we've seen for a while now, and he just doesn't have the juice.
Yeah.
Ollie Gordon it's another situation where he's a rookie, but he's, like a 6th round pick. I think it is Jaylen Wright is the clear number 2 here. And there's not a whole lot of spots where we know 100% who the number 2 is. And in those spots, the guy's usually not going in the 160s in an offense that has big time upside.
All right, so nice pick there with the former Tennessee Vol. We might be seeing another one on our list here soon. All right, Tyler, we saw Jonnu Smith break out in his 8th year with the Miami Dolphins last year. Just put up insane numbers for that tight end position. I'm going to a tight end for mine right here. Bear with me, Tyler. Tight end, Chig Okonkwo. ADP 188 right now. LineStar has him ranked at 154. He's entering his 4th season, and I know in years past he was supposed to have the breakout. It kind of never came, but we have seen some encouraging signs. So he averaged 57.4% of Titans offensive snaps the first 10 weeks, and that increased to 72% over the next 7 weeks. In the fantasy playoffs, Tyler, he caught 22 passes for 182 yards and a 17-yard touchdown run. And his 43.9 fantasy points were actually 4th most behind Trey McBride, Sam Laporta, and George Kittle. Despite not even scoring a touchdown, he has 3 top 5 finishes among the tight ends in fantasy last season. He's got the speed, athleticism. In fact, only 2 tight ends have been faster, according to NGS tracking data, Jonnu Smith and Darren Waller. Also, he did all of that, put up those numbers with some pretty mediocre to poor quarterback play. He had Will Levis, Mason Rudolph, and Ryan Tannehill throwing him the ball. So I think he gets a bit of an upgrade with Cam Ward now there. Even though he is a rookie, he's definitely going to transform that offense into a more pass-heavy type of an offense. And the offensive line has also gotten a nice upgrade there. We know that Cam Ward is an aggressive downfield thrower. I think that Chig Okonkwo could definitely benefit from that. And the only downside here, though, the risk that you're going to be taking is the Titans also drafted tight end Gunnar Helm from Texas. So that's something to watch in training camp. But right now, I think Chig Okonkwo definitely has the skills, the athleticism to be able to put up some points in fantasy, as he's done when he's healthy. Any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I like him. I think there is upside. You know, you talked about his athletic prowess, and that's definitely there. But it's also a guy where a jag, just a guy kept him off the field. Nick Van Ette was taking him off the field, was playing like half the snaps in a lot of games. There's also Josh Weil there, which was just a pick a couple years ago also, who is a giant man. So I think there are some other paths that could take him off again this season. He just hasn't been able to put it all together, but I do like his upside. I have been taking him a little bit, and I'm going to continue to do so when I have Ward.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the spot here for Chig, considering the poor quarterback play that he has had. I think hopefully with Cam Ward now there, we'll see him be able to connect with Chig Okonkwo. But like you said, we got to keep an eye on that one. But not a bad play late in drafts, especially if you already have Cam Ward drafting, because that's another little pair that you can kind of stack together late in the draft. All right, next up, who you got?
All right, my next up, we'll go with Dyami Brown. Jacksonville, ADP is 185. It's another spot where our LineStar rank is down at 245, so I'm higher on these two guys. But the thing is that Jacksonville went out and paid this man. So with that alone, I think he's going to be on the field. And then they also drafted Travis Hunter, who is a super exciting prospect, but he's like my size. He's a little bit bigger. He's 6 feet. He's 190 pounds and wants to play both sides of the ball. He wants to play a ton. Now, the issue there is I don't know if he could hold up playing both sides of the ball at a significant clip. And I think we're going to really need to watch this offseason to see how much he could play on the offensive side versus the defensive side. And with that, I do think Dyami Brown is going to be open up for a lot of routes. If it's not him, I think it's Parker Washington. One of these two guys is going to play a lot more than the ADPs show it. And I think there is some upside with that. And with that being said, if I drafted Travis Hunter, I don't want either of these two guys on my team because I do think they work against each other. If Travis Hunter is paying off where he's being priced, it's because he's playing wide receiver a ton, and these two are mere afterthoughts.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they decide to play Travis Hunter. We know he wants to play both ways, but you know what? I think it was Travis Kelce who commented, like, teams are just going to throw that way and just hope that they tire him out a bit.
Kelce said they just would send a go route on him every single time to try and tire him out.
And so it'll be interesting to see how that all unfolds. But yeah, not a bad play for the Jags to go out and get a super explosive receiver who put up 229 receiving yards over 3 games in the playoffs for the Commanders. Super explosive, potential yak there. So
he has big time upside, but he also is going to give you 0 weeks. He's going to hit your lineup only a few times, probably with some boom plays, but I think he can give you that boom.
All right, Tyler, a player that I also think could give some boom, and I know you have a little difference of opinion on this one, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Dylan Sampson, because I'm on board on this one. His ADP has come up quite a bit since the news of Quinton Judkins' arrest for domestic violence over the weekend. So that situation, there's a lot of unknowns there. But what we do know is that this is the SEC Offensive Player of the Year last year and was the Browns' 4th pick in the 2025 draft from Tennessee. He just had one of the most productive seasons in SEC history. He actually finished 5th in SEC history with 22 rushing touchdowns in a single season. And Tyler, if there's anyone who knows about the SEC, it is me, the former Georgia Bulldog, and I can respect the hustle of Dylan Sampson this past year. By the way, past winners of the SEC Offensive Player of the Year, guys like Jaden Daniels, Bryce Young, Devontae Smith. Oh yeah, Derrick Henry won it back in the day. So that's kind of a good, predictor of success if you want to go that route. But the other thing here is that I think the Browns are going to run it a ton. They kind of have to. And Browns running back coach Deuce Staley said at mandatory minicamp in mid-June that Sampson's gotten a lot of work actually as running back and a receiver, which we know is huge for those fantasy points. Of course, the downside here, though, is the Browns are a bit of a mess, and we're not expecting a ton of points for them over the course of the season. Totally understand that. But here, it's late in the draft. We're looking for a shot, and sometimes the best shot you can take is on a rookie where you kind of don't know what you're going to get out of them. And it's a situation with that running backs room where I feel like there is potential workload there for someone like Dylan Sampson to really kind of take off, especially if Quinton Judkins is at all hindered by any off-the-field legal issues. What are your thoughts?
Well, we'll start with the Judkins thing because we have no idea how this is going to play out.
Yeah.
From the report where, there was definitely some sort of altercation, it's likely that he's going to get suspended. But is it going to be this year? Is it going to be next year? We're kind of in a wait and see approach there. If it hinders Judkins at all, Sampson and Ford do become much more interesting for sure. I personally would rather just go Ford, and for the reason being that this is a Cleveland Browns team that is projected to score like 15 points a game.
Yeah.
So with that, spike weeks are kind of gone. Sampson has jumped up the ADP like 20 picks since this Judkins news came out, and you can get Ford later. And the first 5-6 weeks, like, it's going to be his show. Even if Judkins there, Ford is going to be on the field a lot just because these are rookie running backs that need to learn pass protection and all that kind of stuff. And the Browns aren't just going to throw him out there. So the only spot I'm drafting Cleveland running backs right now is in 0 RB teams, and I want Ford for that early week kind of like push. Just get me some points in the first few weeks of the season until some of my other guys maybe start making a name for themselves.
Yeah, I understand the hesitation with really anything Browns. We're kind of, essentially, like I said at the top of the show, we're kind of throwing a dart at the board and kind of seeing who could take off here. So I don't mind doing it on a former.
Throw darts
yeah,
on.
Exactly. So That being said, Dylan Sampson, maybe consider him. All right. Tyler, who you got next?
There's a lot of 4th round running backs that are, 40 picks higher in the ADP, 50 picks higher in ADP that we're drafting. So it's like, just because he's a 4th round pick, that's not a negative. It's just, we don't know the role. If Judkins is suspended, like, he probably goes up to the 150s.
Yeah. All right. So who you got next after I gave out the Dylan Sampson pick? Who else are you rolling with here in late round best ball targets?
I'll go with my guy, A.D. Mitchell of the Colts. ADP's 211. You're taking him with your very last pick. I just think there's giant upside. This guy is an absolute athletic freak. He's 6'2". He runs a 4.3. He is just super athletic. When he was on the field, he had a 27% target share. Target rate. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
He was getting targeted a ton. And now we have Michael Pittman, who has a bad back. And once you have a bad back, it's not like you ever have a good back again. So there's obviously worry about that spot. Josh Downs is the number 1, but he's a slot guy. And so I think just if Pierce, Downs, or Pittman get hurt, Mitchell walks into a big workload, and he does likely have an upgraded passer in Danny Dimes, which is crazy to say that Danny Dimes is an upgraded passer, but we're talking about he was going with Anthony Richardson and his like 46% completion percentage to Danny Dimes, which is much higher. So I think it's an interesting spot. And I mean, this Colts team in general, I'm intrigued with. I've been drafting both Danny Dimes and AR because I really don't know which one it is, but both of them, where they're going, has ton upside, just like Mitchell.
Yeah, A.D. Mitchell has tremendous upside, like you talked about. He seems to have absolutely no problem getting open. Sometimes it's what he does after the catch, or in some cases, drops. He had, 4 drops on 55 targets. But those are things you kind of expect. Maybe that gets cleaned up. And if he does, with his separation ability, you got to like the upside that's already there, like you mentioned, in kind of a maybe better situation at quarterback, at least
it's so crazy
stable.
that Danny Dimes is a better situation, but I think it is
maybe a little more stability there with him, and so I don't mind that pick at all. And if he can kind of clean up some of those mistakes, you're looking at a guy that can have like those big spike weeks potentially. So I like the pick there. Now for mine, it's kind of one of those picks that you're like, is this really gross? And you let me know in the comments, please. But I have got to do it here. I got to go with the New York Jets and Josh Reynolds, ADP 251, basically undrafted in most leagues. LineStar has him at 237. Here's the thing, all right? We're basically taking a shot at the Jets.
The thing.
Right? I've got to preface it with
argument with here's the thing.
Bear with me, guys. So reports out of the Meadowlands indicate that he could be the clear-cut favorite for wide receiver 2. He's very much separated himself from Allen Lazard. The thing is, he also has familiarity with the coaching staff here. The new coaching staff for the Jets, Aaron Glenn, he played for them, and the offensive coordinator, Tanner Engstrand, in Detroit. So he knows them, knows the system. It should be, more familiar. And then Aaron Glenn's also familiar with Reynolds and what he can do week in and week out. And so my thinking here, Tyler, is that this would be beneficial, particularly in best ball, if you have drafted Justin Fields and you're looking for those spike weeks to kind of get you there. And Josh Reynolds, basically, we're drafting him for the weeks that he has touchdowns, essentially. I'm not saying that he's going to go out and like dominate and become like a top 5 wide receiver or finish their scoring, but he could have those spike weeks that are needed to, advance in best ball. What are your thoughts? How gross is this pick?
I like it. I think that it's hard to get Garrett Wilson in your drafts.
Yeah.
I really like drafting Justin Fields where he's at. And Josh Reynolds, not only is him on your team going to add leverage because he's not being drafted in most contests. So if you get to those playoff rounds he has a decent game with your stack partner, Justin Fields, it's a clear difference maker in the playoffs. So for that, I like it quite a lot. And I agree with you. He is the likely WR2. He's going to run a lot of routes. And until Mason Taylor really gets going, he's going to be, it's him or Breece Hall being the second option in the offense. So I don't mind it at all. And think his ADP should be higher than it is now. And he should probably be drafted a little bit more than he's being drafted.
And I'm tempering my expectations on Jets offense as a whole, but there is a path to them being at least more productive than last year, which, isn't saying much, but
yeah, no, I wouldn't be drafting him if I don't have Fields.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the one caveat there is, I don't think his standalone value is worth it.
Right. All right. So anybody else that you are targeting in best ball super late?
I'll throw another super deep one out there. Sean Tucker.
Go. Okay.
If he's being drafted, it's one of the last picks of the 18th round. He's not going in all of them. The path here is Bucky Irving, while very explosive, is 5'9", 190 pounds. He got banged up last season. He easily could get banged up once again. And if he goes down, I think it could be Sean Tucker's job. Mm-hmm. Now, Rachaad White is absolutely there, but he is just not a good runner with the football. He's great in pass protection. He's great at catching the ball out of the backfield, but he's not a good running back rushing the ball. And I think Sean Tucker has shown the ability for that. And I think that they could easily just pivot to Sean Tucker taking that Bucky Irving role and Rachaad White staying in his third down kind of pass catcher role. And with that, I love the upside of Sean Tucker. At times when we saw him step in last year, he gave us a big boom. And if we're getting that for, more than a few weeks, it could really change a fantasy season.
And from the reports that I read, the Bucs have a tremendous amount of confidence in him and are super high on Sean Tucker. And it seems kind of like that they're maybe even a little bit out on Rachaad White, just from the reports that are kind of trickling out of the organization there. So,
from a contract situation, it appears so. I mean, White's going to be a free agent next year. They could just ditch him and it doesn't matter. It doesn't change their organization for years upcoming at all. So I think Tucker's
the value there, especially on a team that is going to put up points too. That Tampa Bay team is definitely projected to be like a top 10
rushing the ball.
Yeah, for sure. All right. I'm liking the guys that we threw out there. Hopefully we provided at least one of those hits for you in your best ball drafts. Let us know what you guys think of all of our picks. And if you're targeting anyone specifically, let us know in the comments. We're all trying to help each other out and crush those best ball drafts. And if you haven't gotten into the best ball drafts yet, go ahead and test it out. Go ahead and go to Underdog. If you are new to Underdog, use the promo code LineStar. That way you can get a nice bonus deposit. Plus, you can also get 1 free month of the LineStar app, which has some nice best ball rankings for you. A great tool that can really help you crush those best ball drafts, both with our rankings and heat maps for both the entire season and the playoffs as well for best ball. So you can see implied point totals for all the different teams and what we're looking at as far as the entire landscape, which is super helpful when we're trying to predict, those boom weeks for certain players and offenses. So go check it out today at linestarapp.com. Thanks for joining us on this best ball late round targets edition. Good luck in all of your best ball drafts. Tyler, I think we picked out some winners. How about you?
I agree.
Let's go. All right. Good luck, everybody. We'll see you guys next time.